Every Pokemon is different, no matter how minute a difference. They're different in some way. Some have better stats, some have great abilities, different move pools, typing, whatever. They're different, and will have some type of niche somewhere. Corsola is a Pokemon that technically meets this criteria. While everything about it makes it seem like it was made specifically to suck ass, from its garbage stats to poo-poo move pool, and even its kind of trash typing, it culminates in such a way that makes Corsola a Pokemon that can do a thing. And today I'll show you that thing that Corsola does, but be warned, I would not recommend using it. It is genuinely one of the worst Pokemon I've ever used in my freaking life. And you should only use it if you're feeling experimental and want to lose. Excited by that rousing speech on how I feel about Corsola? Good. Let's get started. So, why has 99.97% of the human race ignored Corsola in competitive Pokemon for Generation 4? Well, those stats are straight ass. If you could max out all your stats, maybe they'd be okay, but as they are, Corsola can't really do shit offensively or defensively. It's so slow as well. So you will always be moving second with Corsola, meaning that if it switches in, it's always taking at least one hit before it's allowed to do anything. Taking that hit isn't really easy, given that it's weak to a lot of important attacking types. Most notably electric, ground, and fighting. And don't forget that quad weakness to grass. Not a big deal, but sometimes Pokemon run it. For Swampert and shit. Ignoring the defensive traits that Corsola has, it can't even really do anything offensively once you get it in. You max 40% with a super effective Surf. Your strongest, reliable attacking option. And it practically does nothing to anything that's not super effective against. Its most unique offensive option is Power Gem, which, cool, I guess. You could run Hidden Power Electric or Ice Beam and be better off, but, cool rock move. And this is all part of a bigger issue where there's just lots of better water types that you could use instead. Why use Corsola when you can use Gyarados, Swampert, Milotic, Suicune? It's just kind of not a lot of room for little Corsola to stand out. So, how does it stand out? What's good about Corsola? A lot of minor things that, doesn't really make it good enough to be consistently acceptable, but they are a lot of minor things that are interesting at a glance. So let's take a look at why it's interesting with a bit of a quick game, shall we? The opposing team is using multiple fast special attackers to break down your defensive core. Oh no. What Pokemon should you use to stop this special attacking assault? Is it A, Clefable, one of the most reliable special walls of all time? B, Corsola, who has situational bulk depending on if Sandstorm's up? Or C, I don't know, your dad. It can be whatever. If you guess Clefable, you're right. But what happens if one of those special attackers, removes Clefable with Explosion? You're in a bit of a pickle now, aren't you? Well, that's where our good friend Corsola presents itself as a bit of a potential solution. See, there's a style of team that's very simple but effective. And it goes a little something like this. Step 1, you threaten a strong special attack. Step 2, you bait in the special wall to eat up that special attack, which is most often Clefable. Step 3, blow it up. Step 4, win the game. The best Pokemon at threatening this special attack offense and making itself explode is Heatran. It's a big reason why it's so good against defensive teams. Corsola can handle most of the Heatran's special attacking moves with a Sandstorm boost, and its rock typing allows it to resist explosion, surviving the removal attempt. That's not the only thing it can do either. It can handle Gengar depending on the set, even the offensive Explosion Gengar variant that absolutely destroys Clefable. It can help stall out Empoleon, and potentially very slowly beat it. It can mess up Starmie thanks to Natural Cure and keeping up Stealth Rocks. It can even stall out Rotom, and it can help dance around Suicune. So not only that, but Corsola is also not passively worn down by Sandstorm, making it a much more sturdy answer than alternative defensive Pokemon, while having access to Natural Cure lets it beat Pokemon that rely on Toxic for finding their opening. It's a versatile Pokemon into Heatran, which may not sound like it's that crazy, but it truly is valuable. Defensive teams fear Heatran like none other, and it's a linchpin option for creating holes to break down the defensive core. Corsola is an option for guarding against that Heatran, and giving you the flexibility to run your Clefable for other important threats. And yeah, that's pretty much it for positives. It does one thing interestingly well, but that's kind of it. A bit like Porygon in Generation 1. It can still fail against Heatran 2, most notably to the critical hit Hidden Power Grass. Hidden Power Grass isn't overly common, but some Heatran users do run it, and Corsola will still take a lot from Explosion, and you have to be at high HP to actually pull off this counter. Even more damning though is that Heatran's not on every team. It's on a lot of teams, sure, but not all of them. When you're sitting there playing against a team with no Heatran, you're essentially playing down 5 to 6, and that's no fun. A lot of the inconsistency Corsola faces when trying to wall out some of the aforementioned Pokemon is that it's just always slower. So it's more susceptible to critical hits or bad luck. Pairing it with Pokemon to mitigate this struggle like Jirachi or Thunderwave users go a very long way in helping Corsola do well. Unfortunately, the amount of team support it requires and its restrictiveness on team building is just often not worth it. But if you really are Heatran weak, and a lot of teams are, it could be worth some consideration. Alright, so go over a couple games, couple of examples where Corsola actually did what it was supposed to do. Show that it's not just all theory, there's some practicality to it. Alright, so here we have just Rotom, Starmie, Heatran, all good special attackers. Big problem is if you had any other special defensive wall, like Clefable or Blissey, Heatran would remove it with Explosion, but here, don't have to worry about that as much. Of course, it can come in as long as it gets its health back, and in this case they choked by not just blowing it up immediately, but at half health, you're totally okay. Even Thunderbolt from Life Orb Starmie, which is no joke. Of course, it can take with relative ease, and Surf is even easier. Fully return to full HP. Not really worried about Thunderbolt, much more worried about Trick. You can absorb that with something else. Let it die. Of course, it can come in. It comes in at around 63 HP, or 63% total. And Explosion doesn't kill it. Yeah, just enough defense investment that Corsola can live it. Super effective Thunderbolt from Stab Electric type. No worries, Corsola takes it. So, it's got that good special defense. You have another situation where it's a really strong special attacker, Empoleon, which Clefable can sometimes struggle against. The tad bit of paralysis support though, Corsola can totally PP solid. Solid out of all of its hydro pumps or surfs, whatever it wants to do, and slowly chip it down into range. And sure, it takes a while, but it keeps your Clefable safe for later, and sometimes having two specially defensive walls is important enough that it's worth doing this. You can see on the other side, benefit of Corsola is that Grass Knot does pretty much nothing. That's a bit weird because Grass Knot is quadruple effective against Corsola, but Grass Knot calculates its damage based on weight, and Corsola is like the weight of potato chips. It's extremely light, so even the quadruple effective Grass Knot does pretty much no damage. Another good example is another Explosion Heatran, but this time with the really dangerous move in Overheat. Overheat absolutely cooks Clefable, so having a Pokemon that can absorb it with super ease is great. Corsola has better walling prowess against these really big special attacks like Overheat Heatran than even Clefable does, so it's great, and it absorbs Explosion if Heatran wants to go that route and try and forcefully remove it that way. This Heatran is just completely unable to break your Corsola, and that's hugely valuable. It's really dangerous to a lot of teams. If you want to go without 2 attacking moves, you can go with Toxic, and it lets you manhandle plenty of Pokemon, even like Suicune, who is super bulky. Clefable can sometimes fail to break it, and especially get overrun even if it is running the right coverage move, because Suicune's HP is huge. Seismic Toss doesn't always break Substitute, or whatever, but Corsola's got that immunity to Sandstorm, unlike other water walls, and just has the right moves that can do its thing and kind of work alongside Clefable to do whatever needs to be done. And again, your main use, beating Heatran. Unfortunately, you see one of the weaknesses of Corsola is that sand really does need to be up. So sometimes you have to forcefully switch in your Groudon or Tyranitar into a move that you don't really want them coming into. But you need to make it happen in order for Corsola to do what it needs to do. But you see it absorbs Earth Power with relative ease, doesn't do a whole lot of damage. You can set up your rocks, you can threaten Surf, spam Recover to gain HP, bait attacks, switching on, like if you have a Levitator or a Flying type, you can totally bait the Earth Power, bring it in for free, and yeah. Fable can kind of do this with Seismic Toss, but Corsola's Surf is a bit more threatening, and it also lets your Fable be guaranteed free to do other stuff throughout the game. And then you have some oddball things that Corsola does well. It's a pretty good flying resist. Now that there's a lot of air slashes running around in Generation 4, but having that resistance is nice. And Corsola's bulk is still pretty good. Can do whatever it needs. And it's a good special wall in conjunction to Clefable, so its niche is there. Just not always the most intuitive or easy to enable, but it's definitely there. So that's kind of a taste of what Corsola can do in Generation 4. Its big claim to fame is being an okay Heatran counter, and being able to preserve more important Pokemon for later. It has some niche things that it can do too, like being quite resilient in the face of Sandstorm and Status, and its special defenses nothing to scoff at either. It can help against Apollyon, Calm Mind Suicune, and can Stealth Rock and Recover stall them. Most of the time, it's kinda ass, but for when you're facing down a Heatran that's looking to blow itself up, it's a nice thing to have in your back pocket. If you want to use it, I highly recommend using it on a defensive team with Sandstorm. It's kind of the only way it's going to work. If you'd like to see Corsola win, I highly recommend checking out the time I beat the 2023 Gen 4 champion with the Corsola team. Corsola didn't really do much that game, but it was on the winning team, so there's that. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.